I had studied the issue. We had gathered together scientists and experts, and there was a prediction that sometime, nobody knew when, there was going to be an airborne pandemic, and we were going to need to be able to deal with it, just like we deal with the natural disasters. So we put together a plan, a playbook for how to deal with a pandemic. And we had what we call tabletop exercises, where we'd get all the agencies together, and we'd work through, all right, what would we do in the event of a pandemic? How are we going to deal with the schools? How are we going to deal with public health officials at the state level? How do we provide information? How do we accelerate the production of viruses? Had a whole playbook, big playbook. Handed it off, just like I handed off that good economy to Donald Trump. I said, here you go. And apparently, it was dropped in the bin, and he ignored it. And 3 years later, the pandemic hits. Now, I want to be fair. No matter who was president, the pandemic was going to be a major crisis. People were going to die, people were going to get sick, businesses were going to be shut down, supply lines were going to be messed up, travel was going to be restricted. This is a once-in-a-100-year pandemic. But if you look at a country like Canada, their death rate was 60% lower than here in the United States. Now, I want you to do the math. Over 1 million people died during the pandemic here in the U.S. 60% of 1 million is 600,000 people. That's somebody's grandmother or grandfather, parent, co-worker, friend. Some of those folks might be alive if we had a competent, caring president who was actually trying to make things better, who was not advising people to inject bleach as a cure. So if somebody tells you this election doesn't matter, explain, no, it does matter. It makes a difference when you have a leader who sees you and cares about you and thinks about you. They don't need to be perfect, but they need to try. They need to care. And remind them that elections are more than just policy. They're also about values, and they are about character. Some of you know, I didn't have a father in the house when I was growing up. My parents divorced when I was 2. I knew my father for 1 month. But you know, I did have a lot of people around me. Stepfather, grandparents, teachers, coaches, and most of all, my mother, who taught me the difference between right and wrong, showed me what it meant to be honest and be responsible and to work hard, to treat others the way I wanted to be treated. And I did not, growing up, always live up to those values. I was a knucklehead like most teenagers. But as I became a young adult, I tried to internalize them. I tried to live up to those values. I suspect most of you grew up the same way. And one of the most disturbing things about this election, about Trump's rise in politics, is how we seem to have set aside values, basic values, not democratic values or just basic values that we were taught.